Hi, this is Shane Connington. I decided to revisit my blog as I've only posted my first one successfully, first learning curve, and I've learned a bit in the first blog. Maybe I can try and sit still on a secure seat, and as I'm quite excited about this new experience. My first recording in a long time, so I'm happy to get my podcasting underway and already improving in some professionalism. Once better lighting and things I've picked up from other podcasts. I hope this is one of the good starts, and I'll start scripting my podcasts, but I think it helps me to just start off with things on my mind and introducing myself about what I'm going to be speaking about. As I said in the last blog, ancient history and popular culture are my main interests, and public speaking as even with a stammer, I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and I think speaking on the internet shows some nerve, especially for people who have a hard time stringing words together. But I'm happy to try and push myself a bit more and speak about what I like, as if you're good at something or it makes you happy, why not do it? So I think it's key to be networking, as I'm in a professional creative body of in the industry, and also writing and designing inspired by ancient history, and I'm really interested in the advancements of the technology and adding a new scope to the ancient tales. They say originality is dying. I don't know if I'm paraphrasing that. It's simply there are apparently no new ideas, and there are many films being rehashed, but the better technology saves the millions that was apparently the driving force behind the 1960s masterpieces, that the bygone age of film is far gone, and I think each to our own generation and background, we can bicker and pick at efforts of others all we want, but we can't deny that maybe it's just a new age for technology, and the need to hire a million extras is lessened, and I think the 300 Spartans brought to life in 300. They both put a great nod to the original epic of the Battle of Thermopylae. In the 1960s version, they pay attention to the point that the battle was a two-pronged assault, or defense rather, naval defense at the pass of Artemisia, and naval pass between islands. But the draw of producing another film 7 years later was tempting, and they seized on that marketing opportunity, which I see as equally daring, and like people pick at Peter Jackson and for his development of the Hobbit films. People can't get enough of Lord of the Rings, but they'll pick the bones of the Hobbit. I'm probably more of a yes man than anyone else. I can't help but like us or love whatever Hollywood produces. So I'm happy to pay my money to see the Battle of Artemisia, and after they've already mentioned the final battle of Atea, but why not make the Zack Snyder's 300 three-parter and to a final battle at Atea, and maybe a new Xerxes if he, or Xerxes has already departed. He can see if there's cause for his son to rise, if he ever had a son. I've read Paul Cartledge, if that's the right pronunciation, his Thermopylae, so I don't know if Xerxes survived, or if he really did walk off so casually once he saw the Eva Green's Artemisia being defeated. And I love that Cersei, or should I say Lena Headley, brought her Cersei attitude to the battle. I first saw Lena Headley in 300, and her, as a child, she was bright-eyed and positive, and she warned her father not to trust the Persian. So I think they captured that aspect of her. And she had made a complete character change to a reasonably vengeful character, and very strong as well. They only Spartan women give birth to real men, as they say in the film. and they were renowned as Annies in an age where Hannibal was an us only 200 years later perhaps, but Hannibal was apparently terrifying enough to terrify the Persians, or should I say the Romans. He was, but once he was defeated or took his own life at his own hand by hemlock rather than Roman propaganda that he died at the end of a Roman sword. I appreciate that line in Stephen Knight's Spartacus, but you can see the prevailing attitude of the Romans that every other nation is savages, and I hope that old attitude hasn't reared its ugly head today. I know the Iranian government, they certainly have cause to dislike the ethical and bestial portrayal of their Persian heritage, and the 1960s version is they're shown as a lot more charming and not monsters. So I think there's room for all perspectives. So I've expanded quite a bit from talking about 300 to enlightening and revisiting the ancient stories. So I'll script a future podcast, but I feel it's good to speak from the heart. Those scripts can be as well thought and meaningful. So I've enjoyed speaking out to whoever is watching, and I hope to expand more. As my 7-day trial, I might as well use it. Sir Cunnington signing off. Hi. Shane O'Connell again, or Connington, as my interest in A Song of Ice and Fire. I've been called Socky and Shane Connington and other versions of my name, Shane O'Connell. He's on show inspiration of Westeros and speak as imagine I'm a knight of the Seven Kingdoms, at least in the fandom. Certainly inspired by John Connington, and that Shane and Sean and John, they all have roots in history, like English names. I think Shane was more anglicised, so that's the genesis of why I call myself Shane Connington. I'm not a knight with grayscale. I certainly haven't been knighted by the Queen, but let's just enjoy the material, and you can can call ourselves Aegon the Conqueror if we wish, but I'm really looking forward to the Winds of Winter. No doubt it will be wow, as Dog says. The initials of Winds of Winter. I can't wait to see the meme when WoW actually is on the shelves. Till then, I'm rereading rereading Game of Thrones. I've read it already, but it wasn't very effective for my reread. I underlined as much as I could, but I couldn't follow my own underlining with pale pencil and no description of the character noted, or I think there's so much already explored, but I find there's any more lines, so more examples of my underlining. And as I'm a graphic designer, I've decided to use house colours to parenting parents' house colours as well. So on Targaryen, if that really is his identity, is as the RLJ theory. As I've followed it before the show, I hope, but then T&D, they've read the books less than a decade ago, so I think they're doing their level best, and I call for the sensationalization I don't think it needs, as The Song of Ice and Fire is sensational. But in my last reread, I'm here finished the Feast of Crows again. I thought it was time to improve my underlining of that too, as I basically just reread it, but there's so many lines I've missed, so I might as well underline as much as I can. It's certainly a slower process than reading it for enjoyment, but I find the podcast so rich. The history of Westeros and Radio Westeros, they've really enlightened my knowledge, and whether having just read it or watching their podcast, it's a symbiotic relationship. Probably not relationship, but it certainly helps to point out more helpful lines. But well, I'm a fan of their podcast, certainly, and they cast a great light, I should say. I've long had a interest in classical studies, and I know War of the Roses is cited as many of the as much of the resource for George Martin's Game of Thrones and his larger Song of Ice and Fire universe. but it's very evident then that not just being a conscientious objector to the Vietnam War and having a great interest in history, I think we can all agree that the wall is certainly inspired by Hadrian's Wall, maybe an extra 500 or 600 feet, give or take. Um, that was his anecdote. I recall that he was in England as the sun was setting, imagining himself as his night's watchman, which sounds very awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to imagine you were a Roman legionary? So I think the whether fantasy or not, the basic principle applies that there are unknown horrors out there. Certainly the whites fit that description. I'm one of my ancient culture is one of those horrors. I've great interest in any version of Spartacus or Hannibal or Alexander the Great. I can't help but list more and more characters, and I think the unity that Spartacus inspired amongst his men is certainly lost in Westeros. Like if only for in a world where honor is everything, they've certainly the most unhonorable, even in a grey universe. I think we can agree the phrase are pretty grey. There's at least 50 of them, so they each have a shade of grey. Young Oliver and Jane West. Us, not Jane Westerling. If she had been Jane Frey, we might still have Rob about and his army, but Rosalind Frey. I hope I'm not mixing show and book canon. I know that's a cardinal sin right there, but I think it's great to. It's very interesting. I hope the Valentine legions, rather than attacking Daenerys, if there's no battle of fire with Pariston the Bold already gone to the grass. Ist night, and I can't wait to actually read his chapter, having listened to his chapter and read his speech. I can't help but think a Red Dawn, a Dragon's Dawn. George R. R. Martin shows his knowledge, inspiration, and certainly he's a Tolkien fanboy at heart. So give him a break. Let him write his books. He's given us an epic of our time that we can enjoy for as long as people have enjoyed to kill a mockingbird. And I think it would be crazy to try and see every generation's film or key film style. Because of my interest in rehashed versions and going back and seeing the original, I think A Song of Ice and Fire in Game of Thrones, it stands in that light. A great literary source turned into a great marketing tool. I think because of the large amount of television-inspired memes, if it's not too bold to say, I hope I won't be given my own Red Wedding treatment for this, but I think there's levels of originality that aren't seized upon if we can recycle images of Elisa Mygear and show characters only. If characters like Elisa and Locke, who Hodor strangled, certainly not a version of Andrew Locke. Andrew sounds like a noble old northern character rather than a lackey to Roose Bolton. So I might be rambling a bit, but I think he can hope he can hope that Roose Bolton will eventually rise to the prestige of Ned Stark as Warden of the North, and if Ramsay, I have to give credit to Jeff Hartline for naming him Razor Ahai. If Razor Ahai is going to torment our Sansa, even though Jane Poole suffered. She, in the book, we seem to forget that, and I think Sophie Turner, she really had to put on a brave face to find some lightness in the awful role, the awful part of a great role, I should say, that she was going to undergo, filling in for Jane Poole, who I believe, rewatching the series recently, Jane Poole appeared for 5 or 6 seconds as Joffrey was looking over at Sansa, so she was certainly a minor character in that aspect. So I think they work with what they can. Maybe they had gotten what they could out of the Vale. Although I hoped they'd show the tournament where young Robin would elect his 7. I really like the idea that he's making his own Kingsguard or Lordsguard. Unless he could be King of the Vale once again. I think after Ross's fun times, I doubt there'll be a United Kingdom ever again. Daenerys will, if she returns or Jon rises again, harder and stronger. He isn't a Greyjoy, I know, but he'll certainly be older and stronger. And if the if some of the television inspired memes can be believed, but I find great enjoyment in both. But I've recently acquired World of Ice and Fire and Unk and Egg, the first two graphic novels. I can't wait to buy Ice of the Seven Kingdoms. Right now I'm amidst rereading the series and finishing World of Ice and Fire. I'm amazed at the level of detail and the historical comparisons and the graphic novel form I've ever delved into. I'm also a fan of Marvel, and so many 80s series turned into films. I can't help but marvel at the comic series, and I can't wait to see them. Once I read them history night as a PDF as I am, I'll hope to watch. I'll hope they'll make his Mystery Night graphic novel, as I love the dragon artwork, and Lionel Baratheon being an immediate historical antecedent to Robert. He is laughing as the laughing storm. His disdain for anyone's armor ornamentation. It's quite a unfair move, but at least he's not taking off their heads with much abandon. But I know he certainly found himself as the new Storm King. He probably had the ire returned to him but I think it's good natured, but quite it's a funny aspect to a powerful character. I love the connections